God bless you for being here. And tonight, I'm just going to reiterate for the last time we started these 4 weeks with these 3 guiding scriptures. And I want to just walk us through those again. And so James 1:22 says, do not be mere listeners of the word, but doers, right? And let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. Galatians 6:9. And I know many of us get very weary in the political fray, and we want to give up, but we can't give up. And then James 2:14 tells us faith without works is dead. So we have to activate our faith, right? And so those are our guiding principles. And just to reiterate that. Next slide, please. Hello. So tonight, we are very, very honored and privileged to have 2 local leaders, and I'll give a brief introduction in just a second. We're focusing on local politics, and we're also focusing on what we call servant leadership. And so next slide, please. So the architects of our democratic republic embody what I call servant leadership, right? They risked their lives, their honor, and their fortunes, or at least they were willing to do so, and some of them did. They did not go into politics as a profession. They did not go into politics to gain something. They actually, most of them lost something along the way. They didn't necessarily want to do it, but they knew that there was a calling on their life to do so, so they were willing. Those are the type of people that I have here tonight, and those are the type of people that we have to get back in DC, in that state capitol, and every level in between. This posturing, this graduating from college and posturing for each new political position and being there for 30, 40 years has got to end. It is not in the Constitution. It is not what our architects envisioned, and we vehemently oppose it, if you can't tell. Okay, so I love what Washington said. He said, every post is honorable in which a man can serve, or a woman can serve his country. And so again, whether it's at the very, very local level and everything in between, it all matters. And we do believe that sincere, genuine change can be effectuated at the local level, sometimes maybe even more impactful. And so that is where we're headed tonight. So next slide, please. I know these 2 people very, very well, actually very dear friends. So if you've been around Destiny at all, I don't know how it would be possible not to know Tiffany Sadoff. She's been here longer than we have, and we've been here for 25 years. Yeah, so she's like Destiny through and through. It doesn't get more Destiny. And just such an incredible servant. And then I'll introduce you to Ken Broadway if you're not familiar with him, but for some reason. He is, are you our current mayor or city council? Okay, yeah, okay. Rockland City Council member, but I've also known Ken Broadway for probably at least 15, 20 years. His kids came through Rockland High School, so both my husband and I had the honor of teaching his kids. But I have to just give this fun little story, and then I'm going to turn it over to them for introductions and their spiel. But Ken is really, really amiable, but he's also really strategic. So when I first got to know him on a personal level, it was when he was coaching Rockland girls fast pitch softball, and our girls were playing. And his team was always called, whether it was spring or fall, the Orange Crush. And there's a reason why the crush was in the name. Because as amiable and kind as Ken Broadway is, he crushed you. And our girls never, ever were able to, they never got drafted on his team. We're like, please, please, please. Because I guarantee you, Ken Broadway was always in the championship game. And it was so annoying because he was there every year, and you knew he was going to win because he was pulling out like college level plays for these 8 and 10U girls. Like this, who does this at these levels? But the problem is that after he crushed you, you want to be mad at him. But again, he's so kind that you couldn't even be mad because he crushed you with a smile. So it just doesn't get better than Ken Broadway is all I'm going to say. So on that note, please introduce, your microphones are right behind you, both of you. Just introduce yourselves and your journey, and then we'll pivot in a little bit to more strategy.
Are these on? Can you hear me? Yes. All right. Well, I'm going to stand up if you don't mind.
Oh, please do.
So you want us to give our presentation? Okay.
Let me switch you. Is that on?
Is that working?
There you go.
Everybody can hear me now. Okay. First of all, I do change my clothes. I know that's the same outfit, but I do change my clothes.
It's a different shirt, Ken. You have a blue shirt. Oh, is that blue?
It is. It's a lighter one. You know, it faded over time. Okay. So, actually, Julianne hasn't been completely upfront with you because the reason that you're actually here tonight, and this is true from the standpoint of at least a portion of it. Today is my 55th birthday. Thank you. And this is the only way we could figure out to get a bunch of people to my birthday. So thank you for coming to my birthday. But I do appreciate, yes, thank you. And it is my birthday, but I couldn't think of a better way to talk about servant leadership and about why I do what I do. And I know Tiffany very similarly does what she does, because it's all about serving our communities. And that's how I've always approached things. I had the opportunity to serve in our softball league, which was really one of my first forays into a major service realm. Because if you've not ever served on the board of a youth sports league, I would rather be president of the United States than president of the softball league again. It is a very tough position, because you're never going to make everybody happy. And trust me, if there had been a way, short of sneaking in and moving paperwork, to get the Benzel's daughters on my team, it would have happened. Trust me. I'm sorry, I'm a little too honest that way. So, turning the side corners of applications and different things, I would have tried. I just couldn't do it. So I'm sorry.
No worries.
But I actually started out when we first moved to Rockland, and my oldest daughter started in softball. I joined the board from a field coordinator perspective. And at the time, we were actually playing ball at Twin Oaks. So if you're familiar with Twin Oaks Park and all the fields that are out on the grass area, well, those had very small backstops at that time, and they were all grass infields. And so every Saturday, you would see Ken Broadway out there on a lawnmower, driving through the infields, mowing the lawns so that we would have nice, short grass for the girls to play on. And then we actually moved to skinning the infields and actually getting those fields up to what you see out there today. And that was all through getting individuals involved and getting them to volunteer and help out. And I had an absolute blast until 2004, when I went to a board meeting, and I'm at the board meeting and our current president says, I'm not going to serve next year. And the entire board turns, and guess who they looked at? There wasn't a vote other than it was a, and I was like, okay, yeah, okay, I'll do it. And so I actually had the opportunity to serve a number of years as the president of the softball league. During that period of time, we actually reached over 575 girls registered in the league, which is the largest number of active participants we had in the league at the time. And I couldn't have been more thrilled. Now, it wasn't because of Ken Broadway, though. It was because I had an amazing board, and I also live in an amazing community. And Rockland is amazing. We have amazing families, and that is what really led me to continue my service in the community. Because from softball, I became involved when Diana Ruslin, for those of you who knew Diana when she was here and serving, got me involved when we needed to pass the park assessment. It's a small fee that we pay each year to maintain our parks. Does anybody know how many parks we have in Rockland? Anyone want to guess? 20? 30? It's a little higher. I know it's a little lower. 37. We have 37 parks. Every neighborhood is in walking distance of a park. And so we passed this assessment to help maintain those parks. And if you've had the chance to visit our parks, I would say they're pretty nice. We do a good job of keeping, we have staff that does a fabulous job of keeping those parks up, and we get to enjoy that. But that was my first foray into somewhat of politics, is out actually, I coordinated kids on the corners waving signs saying support the park assessment, and I got out and talked with all of the youth sports groups, encouraging them to get involved. From there, I actually got involved in the Park Rec and Arts Commission through an appointment by our city council. And then I was appointed to the Planning Commission. And that is where I really learned a lot about how our city functions. And I knew at that point in time that I could play a role if the citizens chose to give me that opportunity in ensuring we maintain the amazing city that we've come to love. And so the decision was made to run for city council. My first attempt was actually not successful. I was heartbroken. I thought I had done everything I needed to do, but I was wrong. But the one thing I had was an amazing, and still have, an amazing wife. My wife, Drianne, turned to me the day after the election, and she looked me in the eye and said, "Everything happens for a reason. It's not your time. It's not your time to serve on city council." And so that gave me additional time to serve in other ways. I served on mission trips with the teens from our church. I served, and we went out throughout the United States, serving in different communities. I served on the Planning Commission, learning more and more about our community. And I got involved in the Chamber of Commerce and different ways that I could find to serve. Throughout that time, I was coaching the Orange Crush, I'm sorry. And other teams, I did spend a lot of time coaching. I actually spent, I think total, it was 18 years. Now, I was never like this gentleman in the front because he's just an amazing coach. But and I've always appreciated you, Coach. You've done a great job with the youth in our community and appreciate that. But yes, absolutely, absolutely. And he actually provides a lot of opportunity to actually see how you do what you do as a coach. So yeah, that applause was very much something you deserve because you do a great job. And that is what it means to be a servant leader, because it wasn't ever about Coach. It hasn't been about Ken. In fact, I get embarrassed when people say, "Oh, that's the council member." No, it's Ken, please. That's my name. I'm Ken. And in reality, there's an org chart. There's an org chart for city council. Does anybody know who's at the top of that org chart? We the people. You're my boss. That's right, yes, absolutely. I report to you. I'm responsible to you. You elected me, yes, and I appreciate that. However, I'm responsible to you. You're my boss. It is my responsibility to ensure that your voice is heard in everything that we do. Now, does that mean that we always get things the way we want them done? No. I've been fortunate to be married 33 years, and I can tell you, I definitely don't get everything that I want, all right? So, but I'm still married, so clearly that's worked out well. But council has been a great opportunity for me because I've learned to listen. I've learned to ensure that I get different perspectives and that I never assume, because we all know what happens when you assume, that I know all the answers. And so I do my best to answer as quickly as possible every phone call. I have right here with me my phone. And if you go to the City of Rockland website, guess what you'll find on that website? This number. And I have received phone calls at 2 o'clock in the morning. I received them from the residents that live beneath this area when we were doing the construction and they decided to jackhammer all this area in the middle of the night. They were calling me. Trust me, we stopped the jackhammering really quick. But I have to say one thing, and then I'm going to turn it over to Tiffany, because the last thing I want is Julianne to hook on me. But for those of you who are Rockland residents, those of you who voted for me, or even if you didn't vote for me, I want to say thank you for giving me the opportunity. Thank you for supporting Rockland and helping Rockland be the amazing place it is. And if you're not a Rockland resident, but you're a Placer County resident, thank you for making Placer County an amazing place to live, because it's what each and every one of you do. It's when you voice your opinion, when you voice your concerns, and it's only through your action, which you've taken that today just by being here. So I thank you for that, and I thank you for the opportunity to talk with you today. And I hope, like a good pencil, my point has been sharp and it hasn't been too long. So I'll turn it over to Tiffany.
Good job,
Okay.
Ken, I don't know if I have as many good dad jokes as you. I'm nervous because I don't have as many good ones. But I do have to say first, a huge thank you to Julianne. You know, Julianne, I give her a round of applause. Not only am I in the seat I am here, but I'm in the seat I am because of you. You reached out to me. You were one of the first. Jokingly, I think I laughed back at you and said, I'll help you find somebody. And you pursued and you believed in me in something that I didn't even believe in. I didn't know was part of God's journey for my life. And so I just want to publicly say thank you, Julianne. People like you investing in people and believing in people gives them the courage to step out and serve their community. So thank you, Julianne. Yeah.
Oh, don't clap. I'm coming for y'all.
And that's my hope, right? We need all of you to get involved. And so that's really my goal tonight, to just share with you, why me? I was short. I have a lot of people that ask, you cut me off early. I was like, I'm only 10 seconds in. But I have a lot of people ask, why the school board? How long did it take you to plan this? It actually wasn't my plan. The irony is about 15 years ago, when I actually sat down with Pastor Greg, it was in our interview, I said, hey, my husband and I, we would love to work at Destiny, one condition. If I'm allowed to have one condition, one. We want absolutely nothing to do with church politics. And he laughed and he said, oh, okay. And I said, no, we're serious. Like, we've been in ministry, we've seen it. We want nothing to do with politics. It's not our thing, definitely not church politics. The irony of that statement, Pastor Greg reminded me about a year ago when I told him I was running. He said, do you remember what you told me day one? I said, I 100% remember. He said, isn't it funny how God works? Isn't it funny that the one thing you said you would really never do, here God has divinely put you right in the center of? And so my story is a little similar, but a little different. I love that Julianne titled tonight Servant Leadership, because that is what public office should be. It is servant leadership. You are simply serving your community, and you're doing that one step after another. You're waking up every day going, how can I serve today? And I try to remind myself of that often, but it really started 15 years ago. My husband and I started here as children's pastors. So we were young kids, fresh out of college, knew absolutely nothing about children or raising children. And however, they hired us to work and oversee 250 children. And so what did we do? Like young, fresh out of college students, we went out in the community and said, teach us. We want to know everything we can know, because we have these parents coming to us, asking for help, asking for support, asking how do we talk to our students' teachers, and we didn't know the answers. So we got on campuses and we reached out to principals and we reached out to teachers and said, hey, our parents are having questions. How do we help? As a church, how do we get involved? How do we activate our parents in the community? And so we started sitting on campuses and, we got our feet a little wet. And then about 5 years later, we decided to foster and adopt 2 kids. One of the best decisions of our entire life. We still knew nothing. We learned really quickly a weekend. We knew absolutely nothing about raising children. But here we were
overnight with 2 elementary students, one about to be middle schooler, and we had to figure this thing called public education out. And we had been on campuses, so we had some connections. We asked. I actually still remember the very first day the kids moved in. It was actually their first day of school. How cruel is that? Their first day of school, they move in with us. The teacher at the end of the day says, okay, now make sure you work on Paige's AR goal. I said, AR goal? I don't even know what that is. And she's like, it's okay. She would have known in kindergarten. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. And that teacher was incredible. She walked us through how the system works, how to help our kids, how to get the resources they need. And they had really, really great experiences a majority of the time. But fast forward about 5 years as the community center opened and launched and we started doing more parenting classes, we started to hear parents concerned. We started to have parents coming to my husband and I saying, we don't know how to have our voices heard. We don't know what forum we have. We don't know what to do, how to go about getting more involved. And so at that point we said, well, let me reach out again to some teachers. Let me sit on some committees. And so it's exactly what I did. It was one foot in front of the other. I sat on a committee. I sat on school site council. I sat on the district health committee. And I just said, hey, I just want to be here as a voice for parents. And our district was very open to that. They were excited about that. They wanted people. And believe it or not, sometimes it's hard to find people that are willing to sit in a 3-hour meeting. I loved it. That's one of the things I love. And so I would sit there and listen and then come back and talk to parents. But it was really the last couple years, Julianne and a few others in the community reached out. And they said, hey, Tiff, have you really thought about putting your foot in this water? And I said, how could I help? Why me? And so I actually did what I think every great leader does. I scoured Rockland to find somebody else. I met with person after person. They said, you're crazy. No. And I said, it's just the school board. It's just the school board. But really what it was is I think God was preparing me. God was preparing my heart. He was saying, no, I've divinely called you to this and there's a reason and you don't even understand it right now. But everything you've done up until this point has divinely set you up for this. Not because I'm a politician. I have absolutely no political background. That was actually one of the first things I said. I said, I have no political background. I've never ran a campaign. Well, that's what Julianne said. And I said, well, says you, but what about the voters? Right? And I realized what it was. I was a mama bear on a mission. I was a mama bear going, if my kiddos are going to be away from me during the day, goodness gracious, I'm going to make sure I do every single thing I can to support them, to support their teachers and empower them, but make sure that my children are receiving the best education that they can. And so things kind of got going pretty fast from there. They really did. I just started talking to a few people and just said, hey, if you can find anybody else, I'll support them, I'll empower them. And I started to realize, no, God was asking me to step out, to do something that was maybe a little uncomfortable, but actually something I had always done all along. Our husband and I, our heart was for our community. Our heart was to help parents. Our heart was to help students. It was just doing it in a new way. And so fast forwarding, really it was a few months right before it was time to file. And I had a few people said, so are you filing? I said, listen, I have until August 11th to find someone else. I'm telling you, we're finding somebody else. And that was just me kicking and screaming. That was me feeling insecure. That was me going, God, why me? And there was somebody that reached out to me and they said, listen, we need a mama bear. We need a mama that every decision she makes, she's going to make it in the back of her head thinking of her little babies at home because there's a million other mamas. Actually, there's 42,000 voters. Many of them are mamas. And those mamas are trusting you. Those mamas are asking you to fight as a mama bear would. And so I'm a huge believer of we need more mama bears. We need more papa bears. We need more just community people that love Rockland, serving in public forums to be able to say, hey, listen, this is our community. Our tax dollars are paying for our schools. We get to call the shots. I love what you said of you are our boss. We, the people, are at the top of the org chart. That's 100% accurate. I say often, listen, what is it you want? What do you want your schools to be like? That is why local government matters. It is so important that people in local government remember you're locals. This is your hometown. I love that in order to run for school board, you have to live within your boundary. That's critical. Because I want to see you. I want to see you every day when I go to the grocery store. I want to see you when I go to public parks. I don't hide from you. I love it when people come up to me and they always start out, I'm so sorry, I don't want to bother you. I want you to bother me because your money is paying for the schools that we're making decisions for. And it's about time that you have a voice in your schools and that you're able to say, this is what we stand for. This is what our schools will be about. Rockland has incredible schools. We always have. We say that we are committed to excellence, and it is true. I have one that's 21. He's away at college in large part because of the incredible education he received. I have another, she's 16. And then a surprise, I have a little 2-year-old. And I will say, right up until I had that 2-year-old, I really felt like we were aging out of the system. Okay, we're done. And okay, how can we help? And then he came along and I realized we're not going anywhere. I got 16 more years of this. So honestly, my husband and I sat down and I said, okay, we lose. That's okay. I'm still going to be at every board meeting. I'm just going to be sitting in another seat. I may not be sitting in this seat, but I'm going to be sitting in the other seat and they're going to see my face at every single board meeting. Because it's important that we show up, that we use our voice, we demand action, and we say, this is what we will stand for. And so I'm so honored that you even give us an opportunity to talk tonight, Julianne, because I think a lot of people think, man, public office, why would I? How could I? That's not my thing. Well, it wasn't mine 15 years ago. And I still actually say, I'm not in it for public office. That's actually not my hope or my heart or my intent. My intent is to make sure every voice in our community is heard, and especially the voices in this room, that a room this big, this many people would show up on a Tuesday night to say, I want to get involved. I have been blown away. And in all reality, it's because of this group. It's because of the American Council, Tanner DeBella, Julianne Bitzel. It's all of that work that allows people like me, just mamas at home, to be able to put their little foot in the water and say, hey, I may not know everything, but I promise you I will listen. I promise you every single paper that comes across the dais, I will look at it with the intent, the eyes of a mama bear. Every single decision that comes, it will not just be because this is what is directed or funneled down to me from the state. It will be, is this the best decision for our students? And that's not an easy thing to do. I get it. I get why people don't do that. But I think the more people step up, it takes one to start a ripple. And I really believe this room is starting that. People are talking in Rockland. Ken, I'm sure you hear it. I hear people in Rockland all the time going, what is happening at Destiny? And I love my response is, what's happening? People are getting involved. People are saying, I care. People are saying, I want a voice. People are saying, yeah, clap for that. That's incredible. And I love that because I recognize not every single person can read every piece of paperwork I have. Not every single person. I always tell our other board members, listen, these mamas and daddies, they're working. Especially our single moms, our single dads, they're working all day long. They don't have time to sit down and come. They are entrusting us to have eyes to see what needs to be seen. They're entrusting us to ask the questions that need to be asked. They're entrusting us to make the decisions, the resolutions that need to be made to protect their children and give them the best education that not only do they deserve, but they're paying for. And so I just thank you guys again for the opportunity. I'm figuring this thing out as I go, and I have no problem saying that. I tell my other board members, listen, all the time they say, well, that's standard. And I said, well, sometimes having somebody new on the board shakes things up a bit in a good way. Because no more is it standard. It's, do we do it because it's the right thing? If so, great, let's keep doing it. If we're not doing it for the right reason, I don't care whatever the reason we are. We're going to change it and we're going to find another way. And so I encourage every one of you in the room, though. I'm going to use my last couple minutes, if that's okay, because any chance I get to talk to a room full of people, I want to remind you, if you are here tonight, it's because God is activating something in you. It's because there's a reason you were drawn to this class. Unless you just wanted the free childcare, amen to that, high five. I'm with you right there, okay? But I really, truly believe there are people in this room, we need you. We need you as our next school board members. We need you on our city councils. We need you on our board of supervisors. Now, we have incredible people in place, so don't kick the good people out, okay? But I am so excited to see you get involved. There are so many ways you can get involved, and please do that. There are so many committees at a city level, at a school level, so many committees that you can sit on. I would love to connect you with those. School site council is one of the best. that you can sit on. If you're a parent, run for school site council. Most people don't. It's a very easy election. Don't worry. It's very simple. You put your name on a piece of paper and write 3 sentences. But it's a powerful opportunity for you to have your voice be heard in the voices of your community. Go to your PTC parent-teacher clubs. Go to them. Get involved. If you're busy, find a representative, find a friend that can go, alternate, take turns. I'm telling you, it makes a world of difference when you show up. Emails, email. I know there's a lot of talk out there that not every email gets read. I read every single email. And I mean that, every single one. Now, I try really hard to get back to all of you. There's been a few weeks where we've gotten many, but I read every single one. And I believe there are other good leaders out there that they read every single one as well. So send an email. It is up for us to listen to you, but we can't listen if we don't know what's going on. So please share your concerns. And I'm excited to see some of you at the next election because I think it's going to be a pretty good one.
Incredible. So, the next thing I want to just kind of reinforce what both of them said. First of all, I hope that it's very clear that these are servants. So they didn't go seeking for this. They didn't go looking for it. It came looking for them. And those are the kind of people that we want, that are kind of like, oh, I don't really want to do this, but I'm willing, God willing, I'm going to do this. So that was a major theme with both of them. But then both of them said that they had served in other capacities prior to. So planning commission, site council, just getting, so if you don't feel like I'm ready to just jump right in, maybe I should go kind of wade the waters, if you will, then that is a way for you, if you need to get some, experience or confidence. That is a recurring theme that I heard with both of them as well. If we could go to the next slide, what we're going to do, pivot here, and this isn't purposeful because the two of you automatically came to my mind because you're such dear friends, but I do find it really important because Ken, you alluded to the fact that you did run one time and did not get the seat, but then you ran again. So what I'm going to ask you to do is to share, okay, what do you feel like, were some maybe errors the first time and what you learned, and then strategically what happened the second time, why you were successful, and then I'll get to you.
Wonderful. So running for a position may to some sound very simple. All I have to do is go out, put some signs around, shake a couple hands, put my name on the ballot, and we're good to go. When I first ran, I was very involved in youth sports in our community. I knew a lot of people, what I thought was a lot of people. There's 70,000 people in Rockland. So if you ask the average person on the street, even today, who's on city council, or you show them a picture of me, other than them asking, is that the guy on the back of the milk carton? They're not going to know who I am. And some of you are not like, what milk carton? But those of you who are old enough get it. So the thing that really happened in my first campaign was an assumption that enough was enough. When you are running for a position and you've made a decision that you want to seek, whether it's an appointment to a site council or to planning commission, or you want to seek an elected position, you never stop. You never stop, and you never become confident that you've done enough. I thought that knowing, because we had 575 young ladies, their parents involved in the softball league. Most people in the softball league knew me. I was the coach of the Orange Crush. I was the crazy guy who ran around, had the girls wear clown shoes and the under-6 fun games at the end of the year. All those. I was a crazy guy. I was also known throughout many of the other sports leagues because I coached. And I also met with them regularly and talked about things that were happening in our community relative to our sports fields. And so I thought, well, with that connection, it was enough. I did knock on doors. I wore out a couple pairs of shoes. I think I knocked on the first campaign, I knocked on about 40, if I remember correctly, it was about 4,800 doors in Rockland. So I knocked on a lot of doors, but it wasn't enough. Now, it was a 3-digit number, so it was only several hundred votes out of about 7,000 that I came up short, but it wasn't enough. So what did I learn? Well, the one thing I learned was never stop meeting and talking with people. And that was the thing that I did from the start of my campaign, the second time I ran, until the night of the election. Other than you have to maintain a certain distance from the polls. Okay, so know that, keep it. Note to self: you can't solicit votes at the polls. But I did. I was knocking on doors. Even people would say, "Hey, I already submitted my vote. I was an absentee voter." I would say, "Hey, if I am fortunate enough to be elected, please reach out for me. I would love to talk with you," even if they said they didn't vote for me. But I kept knocking on doors. The second time, it was over 7,600 doors I knocked on. So I elevated that a bit. It was a lot of walking. I would get off of work. I am your local UPS man, one of them. There are many UPS men and women out there, but that's what I do for my day job. And I would work during the day, and then I would get out as soon as work ended, and I'd start knocking on doors. And that, for me, was probably one of the biggest changes that occurred, was getting out, knocking on doors, and meeting people. And what you do is when you meet with people is you say, if you know anyone who has questions about the election and they want to know about the candidates, have them call me, have them reach out for me. And you would always have a piece that you could leave with them with your phone number or with your email. I can't tell you how many times I'd be out knocking on doors and I'd get a phone call. "Hey, you just talked to my neighbor and I had a question. What do you think about X?" And they would always, they'd have a great question. And I would tell them what I thought. The interesting one was always when someone would say, "Are you a Democrat or you're a Republican?" I said, well, it's a nonpartisan position, but if you want to know, and so I'll tell you all, I am a registered Republican. I've been so since 1984. I had the honor of having lunch as a graduating senior from high school with Ronald Reagan. And that was, yes, absolutely. It was amazing. It didn't completely propel me into politics. In fact, if you had talked to me 15 years ago when I was running helping with the softball league, I'd have told you, you got to be crazy. There's no way I'm going to do that. It's hard enough to do the softball league. So that was what I did. Now, the other aspect of that is you've got your social media. You probably, for those of you in Rockland, probably saw some of my signs around. I know I had some of my favorite people with them in their yard. So, but those are some of the things. So that, I don't know if that kind of helps. Okay, and I don't want to take too much time.
No. I have a couple follow-up questions. Number one is just for practical purposes, because a lot of these people are going to actively seek office. Mm-hmm. How much did you spend?
Okay, so this year, I want to say we were just over $26,000 this year that we had to raise in order to complete my campaign. Much of the cost for a campaign today is tied up in mailings. And why is that? Well, the biggest cost is postage. That's where the largest piece comes from. And when you think about postage, you will generally do a full mailing to every address in Rockland. At least addresses with, oh, they almost cut me off. No, we're good. We're good. It's Julianne. She's got the switch there. So the postage is really the key piece, but then you have printing and your normal color printing. But if you're mailing out to, let's say, 22,000 residential addresses, because you mentioned the number of 40,000, it was 42,000 registered voters, you have, of course, most of them have 2, in some cases 3 voters in the household. In fact, some cases more, because their teenage children are going to college and living with them and they vote. So, and all that data, by the way, is available to you. All you have to do is go to the county clerk's office and ask for it. So you pay a small fee and you get all the data. You can know everyone who's registered to vote, have they voted in the past 8 elections, and all that data is there. So that helps. But yeah, so just over $26,000 that I spent and that I raised, and that was all through donations to my campaign. And I did put some of my own money in as well. And by the way, when we talk about why we do this, trust me, I don't do it for the pay, because council gets a stipend, and we've calculated it out based on the hours that we serve. And it's not just 2 meetings a month, by the way. Anyone who tells you that's not being honest with you. But I do love what I do, but it's about 8 cents an hour. So if you're going to do it for the pay, I don't recommend it, because you're not making minimum wage. But it is so well worth it in so many other ways.
Well, let me just follow up a couple things. One, I heard, and that's fine. The one thing that I will say about school board, city council, and county supervisor positions, if you want to avoid what are you? Are you a Republican? Are you a Democrat? Are you a Libertarian? Are you an independent? These are nonpartisan positions. So certainly you are free to tell people what you are. But if you get and if you're not comfortable yourself, well, I'm a Christian, I know I need to get engaged in politics, but I don't like the whole party affiliation, it's going to brand me, et cetera, et cetera. Well, these are all positions that they don't have a party affiliation with. The second thing I did, and you basically alluded to it, is they do have day jobs. So this is really a servanthood. And it's funny that you say 8 cents an hour, because when my husband was coaching, his stipend, we calculated it was 3 cents an hour. So we made less than you. So when you do these things, you are not in it for the pay, trust me. So that should not be your motivation. But both of these, they have day jobs. This is above and beyond. Okay, excellent. Okay, so Tiffany has a little bit different of a story. And you may have heard it, but it's worth repeating 8,000 billion trillion times. In fact, I call her my poster child. I actually want a poster, Tanner, like all over. But Tiffany is the poster child of how it's done right. She ran for the first time, but she replaced a 29-year incumbent, which you can tell how agitated I'm going to be. Why is somebody serving for 29 years on a school board? That's your first problem. But incumbents are really difficult to get out, right? Because they've been there for so long, the name recognition, why should we replace them? Well, she did it. And you did it like 78%? Or what was your percentage? Don't be bashful. Was it 78%?
I would have to look back at it.
It was at least 70%, that's not even... that's a landslide. So how did that happen?
Yeah, it took a lot of people. It wasn't just me. It really did, and I know you were saying, okay, so how? Like the practicals, if you're in this room, how does this actually happen? And so for me, there was a couple key things. One, knowing your community. Know what you're running for and what change you hope to affect. And so literally the second I filed, I knew it was go time, right? And I got on the phone. And I called everybody in public office I had any form of relationship with and said, and as soon as that phone conversation was done, who's the next person I should call? Can you give me a name? And they would give me a name. And then I would call that person. Who's the next person I should call? And it was one, I wanted to know who was already in leadership in our community and what was already happening, not just from a mama's eyes, but from the political scene's eyes. But also, I had to get out there and actually hear and talk and listen. The door to door, I remember somebody first asked me, they're like, well, you seem kind of outgoing, but are you going to be okay going door to door? And I'm like, door to door, this is my hometown. I've lived in Rockland most of my life. I love it. There's a lot of doors in Rockland. And I got a map out and I divided the community into 12 different neighborhoods. And I went, oh my goodness. And I started doing the math. And I'm like, I would have to knock on doors literally 18 hours a day, almost every single day. Like, how is this possible? And so I got out there. I had some goals, weekly goals, and I made sure I hit them every week. And when I wasn't hitting enough doors, I'd say to my hubby and my kids, I love you. I'm with you. We're going to have a really fun 1 hour good time together. And then mama's going out. And sometimes they came with me. And when they were done, they ate lots of snow cones, lots of ice cream, lots of bribery was going on. But getting out and just talking to people, like Ken said, was critical. But I would also say, don't do it alone. There is absolutely no way I could have done that alone. I look at Jesus had his 12. If you can find 5 to 10 people who somewhat think you're decent, they somewhat believe in you, and they will encourage you. that is critical, I really believe, to survive a 3-month campaign. For me, it was really a 3-month campaign at that point because I really jumped in right before it was time to file. And so for me, I found I had about 12 people that were really critical, that they were really, really key. And I said, hey, I need to hit the entire city. 1,000, 2,000, 4,000 at Destiny, that's not enough. We got 42,000 that we got to hit. So how do we hit every single one of those areas? And we did. We sat, we strategized, we talked, but we reminded ourselves the heart of, I want to be out there talking to people. I want to see them. So I would have teams come with me and I would stand there and talk to people as they went. But I wanted to be there in each neighborhood and so it takes a lot of time. But I would say now it is a lot easier for me to make decisions because I've actually been talking to people for 3 months before I ever took the seat. And I knew what they wanted. I knew what their concerns were. I knew what they wanted on a school board. So it actually makes the position easier because I really say day one of campaigning is really day one of the seat. Act as though you're in the seat already. And that's what I did. Called every single person I would as though I was a school board member. They didn't know who I was. I didn't care. I acted like I did. Hi, I'm running for Rockland School Board. I'd love to talk to you. Oh, sure. Who are you? Oh, my name is Tiffany. Acted as though they knew me. And you just start getting to know them. But finally, I would say be you. I actually think that was critical in my race. I think a lot of people, not only just local, but just nationwide, they want people to be them. They didn't want the politically correct answer all the time. They didn't want everything packaged. They wanted a direct answer. And there were some people that grilled me. And I said, hey, listen, I will always tell you the truth. I will be honest with you. You may not love every single thing I say, but I will always do it with the right intent. And I will always listen. And I will change my opinion if what you give me is valid information that I feel I need to change my opinion on. And I think that was critical. Early on in my campaign, I actually had 2 people over to my house. My husband was just reminding me of this earlier. 2 people over. One was a Christian, one wasn't. And they had both done incredible political campaigns in the past. And they said, well, okay, you're doing this. You went ahead and filed, so we might as well help you win. And I said, great, I would love that. Tell me what to do. And the first guy looks at me and he says, your personal Facebook page. I said, yeah. Like, And I knew right away where he was going, but I made him say it. And I looked at him, I was like, uh-huh. He's like, there's a lot of Jesus. And I said, yeah, there is. And he's like, okay. And it was awkward silence. My daughter actually overheard the conversation. She was in her room. And I was like, yeah, I think people need Jesus. Is that okay? Is that okay for me to say I think people need Jesus? He's like, yeah. But I was like, listen, I'm not forcing Jesus on you. I'm just saying, I think not only does our community need Jesus, I actually think you need Jesus too. And he was like, oh goodness. And the other guy standing next to him literally went like this. I'll never forget. He's like, and I hope it's okay, Ken, if I use you. He went and he said, I think you're going to have to spin the Jesus card and work with the Jesus because she's not changing. That's who she is. And I told him, I said, listen, that's one thing that's not going to change. And, it took a few weeks. It actually took a couple months. And a few weeks, couple months in, he was calling. He was like, okay, tell me about this Jesus. And so we laugh and we joke still. But the night I won, it was really, really cool to hear him say, he's like, hey, you did it and you did it with Jesus. You didn't have to take out Jesus. And so I say that story to everybody. And there's a lot of people out there, I'll be honest. There was a lot concerned, right? There's a lot of people going, oh, don't talk about that. And I said, listen, it's who I am. It's who I've been in the community for 16 years for. I've been on campuses for the last 9 years. Nobody had a problem with me loving Jesus then. I never pushed it down anybody's throat, but it was very clear I was a Christian everywhere I went. People that are Christian can be in public office. You can go about it in an appropriate, correct, right way that's not overbearing and overpowering. But I just say that to say, we had a tough decision to make in our campaign. And I decided from day one, though, no, I'm not going to change who I am. This is who I am. I'm a good, decent, honest person. I try to be at least. And I love Jesus. And that's okay. And you know what? Jesus won that election.
She blew it out of the water. So let's give it up for Jesus. A couple things I want to follow up with Tiffany is, and she touched on this, but the lack of authenticity in politics. I get nauseated every single day. I have to keep track of all of this stuff from the nation all the way down to local, and I literally almost throw up every day. It's so disingenuous. And we need people like these two right here at every level. And you know it. You can tell when a politician is, I can't even stand that word. No, we want a servant. I don't want a politician. I want a servant. You can tell the moment they start talking if these people are the real deal or not. And if, irrelevant. But yeah, we need Jesus in the public square, not out. That is to be clear. And then practically, how much did you spend?
Little over $17,000 for my race. School board races can change. My seat that I was up for typically had only spent about $9,000 in the past years. Yes, everything is public record. You can pull it back. I pulled every document. I wanted to see every race for school board. I said, if we're doing this thing, we're doing it for real. And so some of the races have been as low as $7,000 to $9,000. Some were upwards of $28,000, $32,000 for school board races. So it really depends on the year. I was a 1 versus 1. And so I tracked it at each term and looked at, okay, who's spending what, and I wanted to make sure I was competitive. So my overall was $17,000. I'm a firm believer of you contribute your own money. I had a few people reach out to me and said, hey, we know what you do for a living. You work for a nonprofit. We don't want you to be out. And I said, no, I want skin in the game because I want to remind myself I fought for this. So that way, when I have tough moments and tired moments and board meetings that go till 3 a.m., I remember I'm there because I fought for it. I have skin in the game. And so I encourage people, if you're going to run, I encourage you, put some of your own money in. It'll give you a little bit of skin in the game and make you fight for that race.
I absolutely 110% concur with that. If you are not willing to sacrifice your own money, why would you ever ask somebody else to sacrifice theirs if you're not willing to meet them halfway? So I appreciate this. Salt and light, right here. I mean, these people are the real deal. Give it up. Before I let them go, I'm going to just ask them to close out with just a little word of encouragement for you, but they have graciously said that they will be available after. They're going to sit in the front row for the rest of the time, but they'll graciously be available afterward. Tonight, maybe we can let Ken go a little bit since it's your birthday. I had no idea. I'm so sorry.
My family left
I would have brought you a cake.
I'm here for you.
But if you could just close out with just... If somebody is, the Holy Spirit is moving, which I believe he is, I'm looking out there right now. I'm going to call some people out. What would you say to people if they're like, oh gosh, I know I'm supposed to run for school board. I know I'm supposed to run for city council, maybe, get on a commission. I know I'm supposed to get in public office. What would be a 1 or 2 line zinger that you would say to encourage them?
But before I do that, may I just touch on 2 things that she said before we do that? First of all, relative to volunteers, never say no to a volunteer. There's always something they can help you with. The 2 gentlemen at the desk outside when I came in, we were talking stuffing envelopes, walking precincts, all of that you need assistance with. Even at your fundraising events, helping set things up, break things down, greeting people, checking people in. Never say no to a volunteer, and there's never too many volunteers. Look for volunteers because that's what helps make you successful. And you can't do everything. You have to understand that you can't. There's a lot that has to be done. So you made a great point of that, and I appreciate that. And I just want to say, never say no to a volunteer. And the other thing, what was the other thing I wanted to mention? I might have lost it because you hit me with that volunteer thing. But anyway, so the 1 line zinger. What I would say is... relative to running. If you want to run, you have the desire to run, trust in your faith because your faith will get you where you need to go. I've never given up on my faith. I always knew that I had the support I needed, both not only in my faith through my church, but also in my family. And my family was there 100% for me. So trust in your faith, and that will enable you to do incredible things, and it will get you where he intends you to be. That wasn't 1 line. That's what happens when you give a mic to a politician.
You're not a politician, you're a servant.
I don't like to call myself a politician except when I talk too much.
Yeah, one line's hard, right? I was thinking like even just one bullet point because there's so many I'd want to say. And that's why we're going to stick around because I don't want you to have to do this alone. You know, there was a lot of things we were figuring out. And by the grace of God, God moved some people's hearts to help me as I talked to them and they realized I was really crazy and I actually was doing this. And so reach out to people. But I would say just to encourage you right now, start now. Just start now. Whether it's every day you write down on a piece of paper 3 reasons God has put on your heart why you want to do, whether it's every day reflecting, okay, what is it that God has set me up for? You know, it was somebody that said to me, school board, you should do school board. You've always been about education. So what? I'm not a teacher. They're like, look at everything you've ever done. You worked with students. You were a counselor. You know, and they laid it out for me. So I'd say start now on the process, but I'm sorry, you said one, but I gotta end strong. Okay. But on that start now, I would say start now finding people to do this with you. Because I referenced Jesus and the disciples earlier, but I really mean it. Every now and then you need to have a Peter that's going to cut off an ear for you. Because campaigning is not easy. It's not. I'm going to be honest. And I had some incredible people that I was able to call and talk to. But it was nice. There was a couple nights where midnight, something's happened on social media and you're watching it. And it means the world when you have those 5 key people text you and say, it's okay. Remember why you did this. It's okay that you love Jesus. Don't hide it. We know who you are. You are called to this. No matter what happens, you are serving your community. You are serving God. Keep moving forward. So that's why I say start now. Find those 5 people because those people were critical. And there was only a few moments, but there were a few. And it was nice for me to go, but they're saying this and it's not true. They're like, welcome to public office. You know, but it was nice to have those people. And every now and then I had a few people go out there and cut some ears off for me. And I didn't ask them to. But it's nice to know you're not alone when you're doing it. So start now, find those 5 people.
Give it up for them, please. And while you're doing that, if we could stand, we're going to go into our time of prayer and worship. We believe to do and to be activated, but nothing will change the atmosphere without prayer. Nothing will change the atmosphere without worship. So we're going to go into that time right now, and you two can take a seat in the front row there, please. Thank you so much.
I love you, Lord. Oh, your mercy never fails me. In all my days, I've been held in your hands. From the moment that I wake up until I lay my head, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. All my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. I love your voice. You have led me through the fire, and in darkest night, you are close like no other. I've known you as a father, I've known you as a friend, and I have lived in the goodness of God. All my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, landed in the kingdom of light, in the kingdom of light, forever under your dominion. You're the king of my life, you're the king of my life. You reign above it all, you reign above it all, over the universe and over every heart. There is no higher name. Jesus, you reign above it all. On the cross, the work was finished. God, you poured out your life just to give us new life. Now from the lips of the forgiven, hear an anthem arise, 'cause Jesus, you're alive. You reign above it all, you reign above it all, over the universe and over every heart. There is no higher name. Jesus, you reign above it all. Let all of heaven and the earth erupt in song. Sing hallelujah to the everlasting one. There is no higher name. Jesus, you reign above it all. You sent the darkness running out of an empty grave, now seated alone in glory, enthroned on the highest praise. You sent the darkness running out of an empty grave, now seated alone in glory, enthroned on the highest praise. You sent the darkness running out of an empty grave, now seated alone in glory, enthroned on the highest praise. You sent the darkness running out of an empty grave, now seated alone in glory, enthroned on the highest praise. You reign above it all, you reign above it all, over the universe and over every heart. There is no higher name. Jesus, you reign above it all. Let all of heaven and the earth erupt in song. Sing hallelujah to the everlasting one. There is no higher name. Jesus, you reign above it all.
So every week we've been doing these ministry moments, and the scripture that we've kind of bleeded throughout the last 4 weeks has been in Jeremiah. And so if you've attended, you'll know the scripture. And it's the prophet Jeremiah that gives instruction to his people. And he says, seek the welfare of the city in which you have been called to, in other versions, exiled to. And we broke down the word welfare. What does welfare mean in biblical context? And it's the Hebrew word for Yeshua, and it means salvation, deliverance, and prosperity. And so as the prophet is giving instruction on seeking the welfare of the city, he's instructing them to seek the prosperity, deliverance, and salvation of the city. And I want to give you one more example in terms of what we talked about tonight. In the book of Judges, there's no ruler. It's a group of judges for the people. And in Judges 9, Gideon dies. And I just want to read to you really quickly what transpires, because I think this gives great context on a call to action for us as we're talking about servant leadership. And as I say this, it's a parable. And when I say the word trees, he's talking about you. He's talking about the people. And Judges 9 verses 8 says, "The trees once went out to anoint a king over them. And they said to the olive tree, 'Reign over us.' But the olive tree said to them, 'Shall I leave my abundance by which gods and men are honored and go hold sway over the trees?' And the trees said to the fig tree, 'You come and reign over us.' But the fig tree said to them, 'I shall not leave my sweetness and my good fruit and hold sway over the trees.' And the tree said to the vine, 'You come and reign over us.' But the vine said to them, 'Shall I leave my wine that cheers God and men and go hold sway over the trees?' Then all of the trees said to the bramble, which is like a thorn bush, 'You come and reign over us.' And the bramble said to the trees, 'If in good faith you are anointing me king over you, then come and take refuge in my shade. But if not, let fire come out of the bramble and devour the cedars of Lebanon.'" To unpack what that is saying is, when you have great leaders that don't run, in the absence of great leadership, you have terrible leadership. The people they started at the best possible desire. They wanted an olive tree, and the olive tree said, "No, I won't reign over you." And they started moving down. They went to a fig tree and then to a vine, all the way down to a thorn bush, because that was the only thing that was willing to reign over them. That's a word for America. How many times have we been in an election that says that we're picking the best out of two evils? We are quick to settle for any leader in the absence of good ones. And so we all say that's in our narrative in the political climate from a local, state, and federal level. And so I would encourage you just heard from two incredible servant leaders. There's a lot of vacuums in local, state, and national politics. There's a lot of vile political turmoil going on in our nation. I'm not sensationalizing anything. It's just the reality that we're in. And so this is a lesson for us that if no good leader will run, in the absence of them, terrible leaders will. And so as you look at the landscape of our city, our school districts, our county, our state, there's a lot of great leaders that are currently in leadership. Tiffany and Ken Broadway are great examples, but there's also some people that have been elected just because there was no good leadership. And what happens when there's weak leadership? When you go down to the next chapter, in that parable, they end up electing a man named Amalekite. How do you say it? Yeah, Amalekite. And he becomes elected, and he goes on to murder 70 of his brothers who are co-leaders to consolidate power. And then he goes on to kill, I think it's like 75,000 of his own people. All because there was no great leader that stepped up and said, "I will serve." They put a vile man in power that killed thousands of them. And so I know that's kind of coarse, but let that be a lesson in servant leadership. There are so many servant leadership roles for you to be in. Don't be the person that complains that there's no good leaders. Be the leader. Run. And so tonight I'm going to close in prayer, and then we're going to go into some action items. So bow your heads with me. Lord, thank you for blessing the last 4 weeks. Lord, as we've discussed state politics, world politics, local politics. Lord, I pray that there would be a resounding determination in each of our hearts to do something. Whether that be to run, to attend school board meetings, to reach out to our local representatives, would there be a clear action item that you would begin to impress upon their hearts? Would we do what the prophet Jeremiah instructed the Jewish people? Would we seek the salvation, the prosperity, and the deliverance of the city in which we've been called to? And would that mantle be something that we do in local, state, and federal government? And Lord, I just pray a blessing over Ken and Tiffany. Lord, would you build up leaders like them in our elections? The midterms are coming up. They're just around the corner. God, would this begin to be a local movement that would bring people to say, I have to get involved. I'm going to run. I'm going to do something. I'm going to serve on a campaign. I'm going to volunteer. I'm going to donate my money. Would this be something that we just aren't educated on, but would this be something that we're transformed because of the awareness of what we've learned over the last 4 weeks? And would we go out and do the Lord's work in the civic arena? In Jesus' name, amen.
All right, thank you. So if you could just have a seat for a few more minutes, we're going to go into our action items. And speaking of not an olive branch or an olive tree, can we go to the next slide, please? Speaking of a thorn. Okay, so this is what you get when you don't run, people. Okay, so the Secretary of State certified the election. I believe it was last Thursday, and we were all, very excited. We all knew, but it's a different feeling to actually have it certified. Okay, so but then they didn't waste any time, of course. So yesterday, they rammed through it already passed the Assembly. It will pass the Senate. Newsom will sign it. They are basically changing the rules as we speak. So basically, it's going to give the lieutenant governor, which is Newsom's crony, basically the full gamut of when this election is going to occur. And our projected date is September 14th, which is right around the corner. It should be early November. And they're hoping that we're all in this summer malaise and we're all at the beach and not paying attention, and we forget everything that he has done to our state. So this is a deep, deep, deep prayer issue. All of these are, but this is a deep, deep, because this is, talk about vile and malicious and manipulative, and I could go on, but I won't. So this is an evil leader that we must get rid of. That's all I'm going to say. So pray for righteousness, but also pray for, if it is September 14th, that the message gets out. I do want to draw attention to a movie that's coming out. Maybe some of you, even for your own self, even if you've been with us since February 3rd, you're like, I still don't get it. Why is he so evil? She keeps saying that, but why? This movie is that it's just that. It's a really well done kind of documentary, but more of a movie for a visual, but just that storytelling. If you do not understand the deep roots of Newsom and the four families that have controlled California politics for the last multiple decades, it's like, talk about you'll get nauseous. Don't eat a lot of popcorn before you watch it because you will throw up. But it is nauseating, and we have to end this regime, as I call it. Okay, so be paying attention for the trailer is out there, so it's kind of a teaser, but you can get on that website and find out more information. The other thing I will say is that we have received incredible feedback from this workshop, and I personally have really enjoyed it. I'm an American historian, so there's nothing more I love than talking about American history, but we are not going to redo the Defending Freedom class in the fall. There's just too much activism to be done. So we're going to go ahead and replicate this summer workshop starting on September 1st. We already have 3. I'm not going to tell you yet because I want you to just wonder. But we have already 3 incredible nights lined up, and I have a 4th in motion. So it's going to be very much like this. We'll do some education pieces. We're going to have a lot of guest speakers. Again, prayer and worship and activism. So basically taking this and emulating it in the fall, starting on September 1st. We are going to be back in the main sanctuary. That's where Pastor Greg wants us. He's the boss. So we're going to be back over there on Wednesday nights in the main sanctuary. So kind of just mark that on your calendar. And then to close out for our action items, and then Tanner's going to talk about American Council. This is our last night. So the recall people are here again. Please go visit that booth and do whatever you possibly can. The Voter Integrity Project is here. The School Choice Initiative 2022, that table is here. They actually are one of the people there. I will tell you that they are with us on September 15th. They're going to give a little presentation on exactly what that school choice initiative, and it's kind of interesting the timing because starting on September 14th, which is the day before, is when they can actually start gathering signatures. So I planned them for the 15th, and they'll be able to actually gather signatures that night. So it's great. And then Boomer is out there. There's Boomer right there. Can't get enough of Boomer. So he's here. Go talk to him. He's got his table of information. He's got some, if you don't have any of his merchandise, then you're really missing out. Sacramento Republican, Russell, I see you. So Sacramento Republican Assembly is here. And did I miss any booths? I think those are all the 5 tables that are here tonight. So please, one last time, go visit those. And I just want to applaud and commend you as I always do. God bless you. Again, it's June 29th. And you are at a civics activism summer workshop. You are the real deal. You are my people.
So there's only 2 on here, but I have 3 action items this week. The first is when you walked in, you should have received a flyer. We did it a couple weeks back, but I want to remind us, where's Karen Henson? Karen, can you stand up? Karen Henson started this incredible ministry, and we talked about this a couple weeks ago. So if you have questions, please, can you stay after for a little bit? Please talk to her. So she started a ministry that's called Feet to Our Faith, and every Tuesday at 12:30 on the north steps of the state capitol, they pray around the Capitol. And they've partnered with multiple pastors to identify legislators, where they're located in the building. So as they're praying for specific people, specific pieces of legislation. It's an incredible ministry, and this is a really practical way to get involved. So even if you can't make it physically in person, there's ways for you to do it, whether you're at work or you're at home on Tuesdays. And so see Karen. There's flyers outside if you didn't get one, but I would highly encourage you to get involved in that. Thanks, Karen. And so the other 2 pieces is before September 1st, we are offering through the American Council, we have 4 upcoming workshops. We have a conservative apologetics class coming up in July, which is based all around you're a conservative, but do you really know why you're a conservative? And so it's kind of an apologetics class for conservatism. We're going to deep dive into the Arab-Israeli conflict, which you got a little touch of it last week as well. We're talking about the Communist Manifesto as the 3rd workshop, and then the 4th is American government. And so I would encourage you to look at that if you are salivating for something between now and September 1st. You can go to theamericancouncil.org/events, and they're all on there. And then the second piece is a really practical, obviously Tiffany and Ken brought some great strategy, but if you, after tonight, or maybe you've just been processing this for a while, because I've talked to many of you, Juliana's talked to many of you on, you want to run for something, you just don't know how, and you don't know what to do. There's a great resource out there called Kingdom in Politics. KingdomInPolitics.com is the website, and this is a Christian campaign manager that has managed campaigns for governors and congressional candidates, and they've all won. He's brilliant. He's got the knowledge, and so he's developed 3 e-courses and resources where if you want to run for local politics, state politics, or national politics, it's from a Christian biblical worldview on the meat of running a campaign and making it successful. And so they're very expensive courses. So obviously we've talked about the American Council quite a bit in these classes. The American Council has a political action committee. As of today at 12, we've given around $250,000 to local and state candidates. And so myself and Julianne both serve on the board for that organization. And so our heart is to find and support Christian candidates in local and state politics specifically. And so if you are thinking of running, I want you to come talk to me, because the class, the resource Kingdom and Politics, is very expensive. If you want to run and I want to have a discussion with you, and if it's viable, we'll pay for the class. We will pay for you to go through the class because we want to equip you. We want to resource you on doing this and doing it with excellence. And so that's a great resource to get involved in. So come talk to me if it is something that you want to get involved in. So that's all I have. God bless you. Go in peace. Shalom. Ken and Tiffany will stay if you guys have questions too. So.